Imagine looking into like a massive industrial dumpster, right? And you just see this absolute mountain of brand new, perfectly pristine winter jackets. Tags are still on them and everything.
Yeah, it's just sitting there.
Right, just sitting there. And then imagine watching someone casually walk up, strike a match, toss it in, and literally set fire to $890 billion.
It's an unbelievable visual, but honestly, it's not far from the reality of what's happening.
It's insane. And, you listening right now, you're probably thinking about the last time you bought maybe 3 sizes of the exact same coat online,
Right.
just to figure out which one actually fit.
With the full intention of sending the other two back, of course.
Exactly. I mean, we all do it. But what you probably didn't know is that your return, that totally frictionless little errand you ran, just fueled this massive invisible crisis right at the very end of the global supply chain.
It really is a logistical nightmare. And the thing is, consumers are entirely shielded from it. By design, really.
Right, because the moment you hand that unboxed item to a cashier or drop it off at a kiosk, boom, the refund hits your credit card.
Yeah, and your part of the transaction is totally over. You don't think about it again, but physically.
Yeah.
That item enters a reverse logistics system that is fundamentally structurally broken.
Which is exactly why we're stripping away that shield today. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the completely hidden economics of retail returns.
And we have some incredible source material for this.
We really do. We're pulling from some incredibly detailed deep tech engineering and reverse logistics breakdowns by industry analyst Prasad Bond.
His work is fascinating because he gets right down onto the concrete floor of these warehouses.
Yeah, and we're pairing his micro-level engineering insights with these massive macro-level retail data and circular economy reports from the National Retail Federation, the NRF, and Happy Returns.
It's a great stack of sources because the contrast provides like a perfect map of the crisis.
Definitely. So we're going to examine why these massive industrial warehouses are literally throwing away perfectly good inventory. And, more importantly, how this clever combination of edge computing, computer vision, and a shared savings financial model is stepping in to rescue millions in retail margins.
And ultimately, how it's driving the circular economy.
Let's start with the sheer scale of the bleed, because I was looking at the NRF data and the numbers are just staggering. Total retail returns are projected to hit $890 billion in 2024.
Yeah, $890 billion. It's almost hard to wrap your head around.
I mean, that is not a rounding error in corporate accounting. That is the gross domestic product of a moderately sized nation. And it's comprised entirely of like sweaters and electronics and shoes traveling backward through the mail.
To contextualize that a bit, retailers estimate they'll see almost 17% of their total annual sales returned.
Wait, 17%, so nearly 1 in 5 items sold just goes right backward.
Exactly. And during the winter holiday season, that return rate spikes another 17% above their baseline.
Oh, wow, so they are just hemorrhaging revenue.
They are, but they're completely trapped by consumer expectation at this point.
I want to dig into that expectation, actually, because the NRF report points directly to this massive psychological shift in how we shop. Like 76% of consumers now demand free returns as a baseline condition for even browsing a website.
Yeah, if there's a restocking fee or if they have to pay for shipping, they just abandon the cart. They won't even buy it.
Right. And beyond that, 84% of shoppers demand no box, no label, immediate refunds.
They just want to walk into a partner store, hand over the naked item, no packaging, and get their money back on their phone before they even walk out the door.
Which, I mean, is a luxury we've all gotten used to. But how did we get here?
Well, it's the culmination of a decade-long retail arms race, really.
Yeah.
Early pioneers, like Zappos and Amazon Prime, they weaponized free returns to destroy brick-and-mortar retail.
Oh, that makes sense. They trained us to do this.
Exactly. They trained the consumer to view their own bedroom as the modern fitting room. But now, that weapon has turned into a massive liability for the whole industry.
Because retailers have to offer this seamless, frictionless experience just to maintain brand loyalty.
Right. But the back-end reality of actually processing that frictionless return is excruciatingly expensive.
Which brings us back to that habit we mentioned at the very start, right? Bracketing. Buying the small, the medium, and the large.
Yeah. Purchasing multiple items with the explicit, predetermined intent to return the ones that don't fit.
So it's not even post-purchase regret anymore?
No, not at all. It's completely baked into the initial transaction. The data shows that 51% of Gen Z consumers actively engage in bracketing.
Wow. Over half.
Yeah, they're essentially treating e-commerce inventory as temporary rentals.
Okay, so if $890 billion worth of goods are sloshing back into the system, I'm trying to picture the physical reality of this on the ground. Like if I'm a warehouse worker, my whole day is built around speed, right? Getting boxes out the door.
Exactly. Outbound velocity is everything.
So when a return comes in, I assume I can't just toss it back on the shelf. I have to, like, play detective.
Hmm.
What actually happens when that jacket hits the receiving dock of a third-party logistics warehouse? A 3PL.
Well, the arrival of a return creates what Prasad Boina describes as kinetic friction. It completely shatters the standard flow of the warehouse.
Because the warehouse isn't built for stuff coming back.
Right. A modern 3PL, and these are those massive outsourced facilities that handle fulfillment for dozens of different brands under one roof, they are brilliantly optimized for outbound speed. The algorithms direct workers on the most efficient paths to pick, pack, and ship.
But inbound returns are just totally unpredictable.
Completely. Every return is essentially a mystery box. Yeah. And the NRF data states that the manual triage process takes, on average, 4 minutes per item.
Wait, 4 minutes with one item. Break that down for me. What on earth takes 4 minutes?
Okay, so put yourself in the shoes of the dock worker. First, you cut open the poly mailer. Then, you have to scan the return slip and verify the customer actually sent back the right item.
Right, making sure it's not a brick or a counterfeit or something.
Exactly. Then, you physically inspect the garment. If it's a jacket, you are checking every single zipper, every button. You have to physically stretch the fabric to look for stress tears.
That seems incredibly tedious.
It is. And it gets worse. You literally have to smell the garment to check for heavy perfumes, cigarette smoke, or body odor. You have to check the collar and cuffs for makeup or sweat stains.
Oh man, that sounds so subjective too. Like my standard for a clean smell might be totally different from yours.
It's entirely subjective, which is exactly why it's so prone to error. And then, if the item somehow passes that human sensory test, the worker has to meticulously fold it to factory standards.
Which takes time.
Right. Then they place it in a new poly bag, seal it, and assign it a completely new SKU stock keeping unit. So the warehouse inventory system knows where to store it.
Okay, let's look at the unit economics of that 4-minute inspection, because Banan does the math in his analysis, and it is just brutal.
It really is.
So when you factor in a standard warehouse labor wage plus benefits and overhead, it hovers around $25 an hour, right? Meaning that single 4-minute inspection costs the retail brand $4.
$4 just to ascertain the condition of the items. Not to fix it, just to look at it.
So if you're a brand selling a $30 t-shirt and your profit margin is what, maybe $8 or $9, spending $4 just to figure out if you're even allowed to sell the shirt again completely wipes out the margin.
Exactly. Completely destroys it.
It's like paying a mechanic $100 just to pop the hood of your car, look at the engine, and say, yep, the engine is still there. You haven't fixed anything. You've just paid for an observation.
That's a great analogy. It's basically financial suicide for the retail brand. The margin recovery simply doesn't justify the labor costs of the inspection.
So what happens?
Well, this dynamic creates what Bond identifies as a massive profit leak at the receiving dock. Because manual inspection is agonizingly slow, and these warehouses are receiving thousands of returns a day of physical bottleneck forms.
Right, because the stuff is coming in way faster than they can check it.
Exactly. So the 3PL ends up with literal mountains of unsorted returns piling up on the concrete floor.
And floor space in a massive industrial warehouse is highly monetized real estate. Like a 3PL manager cannot have pallets of maybe good, maybe bad jackets just sitting around for weeks. It takes up staging areas meant for outbound freight.
They have to clear the floor. That is their absolute mandate.
So how do they clear it if they don't have the time to sort it?
To clear that space instantly, warehouses bypass the inspection process entirely and default to bulk liquidation.
They just skip the check.
They skip it. They take these returned items, often without a single human ever looking inside the box, and sweep them into these massive corrugated cardboard bulk bins. They're called gaylords.
Okay, so these Gaylord boxes, they hold what, hundreds of pounds of loose inventory?
Yeah, massive amounts of loose product. And then the 3PL sells these entire bins to third-party liquidators for literal pennies on the dollar, typically around 5 cents to the dollar.
They just dump them. The brand takes a total write-off on their balance sheet. But here is the truly staggering statistic from Bond's analysis that I really want to highlight.
Yeah, this is the cooker.
Up to 40% of the items in those liquidated Gaylords are in pristine, perfect, unopened, restockable condition.
40%. It's a massive arbitrage opportunity, and it's born out of sheer operational panic.
Right. The liquidator who buys that Gaylord for a few $100s is acquiring thousands of dollars of pristine tagged inventory.
It's a gold mine for the liquidator.
Now, if I am the chief operating officer of the retail brand, I am absolutely furious. My 3PL is taking my pristine merchandise and throwing it in a dumpster for a nickel just because they don't want to sort it.
You'd be livid.
Why doesn't the 3PL just, I don't know, hire more people or dedicate a specific team to work faster and save the brand's money?
And this is where we uncover the core incentive mismatch at the very heart of the supply chain. It is a fundamental flaw in the reverse logistics business model.
Okay, walk me through it.
You have to look at how a 3PL generates revenue. They bill the retail brands based primarily on two metrics: labor hours utilized and pallet storage space occupied per month.
Wait, so the 3PL makes money when their workers are on the clock doing tasks, and they make money when pallets are sitting on the floor taking up space.
Precisely. The 3PL has zero financial incentive to speed up the returns process. They have zero financial incentive to save the brand's profit margin.
That is wild.
In fact, the incentives are totally inverted. Think about it. If a 3PL implements a faster, more efficient returns process that requires fewer labor hours, they actually bill the brand less.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Slow, agonizing manual triage makes the 3PL money while it bleeds the brand dry.
So the warehouse manager looks at this mountain of returns and thinks, hey, we get paid by the hour to look at this, and we get paid by the square foot for it to sit here.
Exactly. There is absolutely no penalty for eventually dumping it into liquidation to clear space. And there's absolutely no reward for saving a pristine item.
Bond even notes that liquidators often maintain these very cozy, sometimes totally undisclosed relationships with warehouse managers to secure these specific bulk pallets, because the liquidators know about the high ratio of pristine inventory hidden inside.
Right. So you see, the system isn't broken from the perspective of the 3PL or the liquidator. It is functioning exactly as it's financially incentivized to function.
The only loser is the retail brand, and ultimately the environment, which we'll get into. Okay, so we've established that the manual bottleneck is ruining retail margins, and the financial incentives are completely backward. The only way to solve this is to take the subjective human decision-making, that 4-minute, $4 inspection, out of the equation entirely, right?
They have to.
We need to put eyes on this problem without racking up labor hours. Which brings us to the physical hardware intervention, edge computer vision.
Yes. And this is where Bond's pragmatic engineering background really shines. He and his teams build what they call algorithmic triage stations.
Now, when you hear that, you might picture like a hyper-complex, multi-million-dollar robotics facility with robotic arms, flipping boxes, and lasers everywhere.
Right, something out of a sci-fi movie. But they're applying first principles thinking to industrial automation here. The reality is far more utilitarian.
Yeah, the visual prompts from the sources describe something that looks like it belongs in a machine shop. It's this matte black, powder-coated structural steel frame built right over a heavy-duty stainless steel conveyor belt.
Yeah, very rugged.
And it uses off-the-shelf, high-resolution industrial cameras and a localized dual-strobe LED lighting system.
It's designed for survivability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a warehouse is a highly kinetic, dusty, and physically abusive environment.
Forklifts crashing into things.
Exactly. The goal isn't aesthetic futurism. The goal is relentless uptime. It just has to work day in and day out.
So how does the actual computer vision replace the human worker unzipping the jacket? What is the actual mechanism of the triage?
Okay, so the station shifts the decision-making point to the very first physical touch. The human operator simply takes the returned item out of the shipping mailer and places it flat on the conveyor belt, directly under the camera array.
Just lays it down.
Right. The system instantly reads the barcode to identify the expected item. Then the camera checks the physical geometry of the item against the exact SICU specifications in its database.
Meaning if a box is supposed to be a perfect 6x6 cube and the camera sees a crushed corner, it knows immediately that it's damaged.
Yes. It verifies if the factory tape seal is perfectly intact. But the real ingenuity is how it handles unsealed apparel. You mentioned the dual strobe LED lighting system.
Yeah, how does that work?
The strobes fire at varying high frequencies to cast microscopic shadows across the weave of the fabric.
Oh, wow. So it's not just taking a flat photo, it's actually using light angles to reveal texture.
Exactly. So if a thread is pulled, or if the fabric tension suggests the garment was worn and stretched rather than just briefly tried on, the shadow pattern changes at a microscopic level.
That's incredible.
The machine learning model, which has been trained on millions of images of stressed versus virgin fabric, spots that disruption in milliseconds. It detects microabrasions, surface wear, or pilling far faster and more accurately than a tired human eye ever could under fluorescent warehouse lights.
Now, I want to challenge a specific technical requirement Bond insists on here, because he is adamant that this entire system must be an edge computing system. It cannot rely on cloud processing.
Right. He's very strict about that.
But in a modern tech landscape where literally everything from our thermostats to our cars is cloud-based, why avoid the cloud? Wouldn't it be infinitely cheaper to just send the photo to a massive Amazon AWS server, run the AI model there, and send the signal back to the warehouse?
Well, if this triage station were sitting in a corporate office building, yes, cloud computing would be the logical choice. But a distribution center concrete floor is a uniquely hostile environment for wireless data.
Really? Why is that?
This is a critical point of failure that Silicon Valley startups constantly misunderstand when they try to enter industrial spaces. Think about the physics of the space. A 1 million square foot distribution center is essentially a giant Faraday cage.
A Faraday cage, blocking the signal.
Exactly. You have a massive expanse of polished concrete containing steel rebar. You have towering 50-foot-tall racks of solid metal shelving, densely packed with inventory. You have dozens of electric forklifts moving constantly, generating immense electromagnetic interference.
So it's basically a dead zone.
Wi-Fi signals in a warehouse do not just degrade, they drop entirely, constantly.
And if the Wi-Fi drops while the camera is waiting for the cloud server to analyze a jacket?
The camera can't get a decision. And the physical conveyor belt must stall to wait for the result. The moment the belt stalls, the warehouse worker stops moving, the entire intake line backs up.
Which infuriates the 3PL supervisor because throughput has just stopped.
Precisely. Therefore, the machine learning model must run locally. It has to be an edge compute unit. Bond specifically mentions using platforms like the NVIDIA Jetson, which is this powerful, compact AI computer mounted directly, physically onto the steel frame of the station.
So the brain is right there.
The algorithmic brain is hardwired directly to the camera. There is absolutely no network dependency for the critical triage decision. The machine evaluates the fabric and makes the call locally in 15 milliseconds.
That is so smart. And designing for the reality of the floor brings us to the human element of this hardware. Because, you can build the smartest edge AI camera in the world, but if the floor workers refuse to use it, the technology is completely useless.
That's a heavy paperweight.
Exactly. And Bond identifies a very specific control point in this operation. And it's not the CEO of the retail brand who signs the contract. The ultimate gatekeeper is the 3PL shift supervisor.
Yes. The shift supervisor's entire professional existence is judged by throughput, keeping the line moving safely and constantly.
So if a new machine messes with that...
Bond notes a harsh reality of industrial tech deployments. If a new tool adds any cognitive load to the workers, or if it requires more than 5 minutes of training to understand, or heaven forbid it causes the line to crash, the supervisor will simply walk over, unplug the machine, push it into a dusty corner, and order the workers to go back to the manual 4-minute sorting method.
They will literally bypass $1 million of R&D just to keep the belt moving.
In a heartbeat.
So how does this algorithmic triage station survive the supervisor test?
By entirely removing human ambiguity and friction. First, the designers implemented physical guide rails on the conveyor belt.
Guide rails.
Yeah. This forces the warehouse worker to place the package in the exact focal plane of the camera every single time. It completely eliminates human error regarding camera focus, positioning, or calibration. The worker physically cannot mess it up.
Okay, so the hardware literally forces the correct behavior.
Yes. And second, the user interface is aggressively minimalist. There are no complex dashboards, no drop-down menus, no error codes for the worker to interpret.
So what do they see?
It is a binary output. A monitor mounted at eye level simply flashes a bright green light with the word restock, or a bright red light with the word liquidate.
Green means place it on the good pallet. Red means throw it in the Gaylord.
That's it. The worker doesn't have to think, analyze, or guess. They just act as the physical extension of the algorithm. Look at the light, move the box. This operational simplicity is what allows the unit economics to shift so drastically.
Let's clearly define that economic shift. We started with a manual inspection taking 4 minutes and costing $4 per item. What does the algorithmic triage station achieve?
The inspection time drops from 4 minutes down to an average of 15 seconds per item.
Wow. 15 seconds.
And because you are processing so many more items per hour with a single worker, the cost of that inspection plummets from $4 down to just 12 cents.
You are taking a massive cost center, a $4 black hole where retail profits just go to die, and reducing it to 12 cents. That is a total paradigm shift in reverse logistics.
We're fundamentally changing the return pipeline. It ceases to be a slow, expensive drain and becomes what Bond terms an active recovery engine.
Now, if this hardware is as foolproof as you say, and it drops cost to 12 cents, every retail brand in the world should be begging for it, right?
Right.
But this brings us to a massive structural roadblock.
The standoff.
Right. Earlier, we established that 3PLs make money by billing for slow labor. So we have a fundamental standoff here. If I am the tech company that invented this triage station, how do I convince a 3PL to let me install a machine that actively destroys their labor revenue? Why would a warehouse manager ever allow me to plug this thing in?
That is the genius of the business model they deploy. Look, a brilliant piece of hardware will fail in the market if the financial incentives of the deployment are misaligned.
You have to make it worth their while.
Exactly. You have to remove the financial friction of acquiring the physical hardware, and you have to synchronize the incentives of all three distinct parties: the retail brand, the 3PL warehouse, and the tech provider.
Blonde explicitly warns that selling this hardware as a standard CapEx, a capital expenditure purchase, will fail. And selling it as a monthly software subscription, a SaaS model, will also fail. Break down the corporate finance reality of why those traditional sales models are just dead on arrival here.
Well, corporate finance departments, particularly retail COOs, are currently exhausted by upfront capital expenditures. Asking a brand to drop hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy unproven warehouse hardware is a nearly impossible sell, especially when margins are already so tight.
It takes months of budget approvals and board meetings.
Exactly. And on the other side, as you pointed out, asking the 3PL to buy it makes zero sense because it cannibalizes their own labor billings. A SaaS subscription just shifts the pain to a monthly operational expense without guaranteeing a result.
So what's the alternative? The solution Bond outlines is called a shared savings recovery model, and he compares it to an energy savings performance contract, or an ESPC.
Right.
Now, I know ESPCs are huge in the green building industry, but how does that translate to a warehouse floor? Like, how does the money actually flow?
The history of the ESPC dates back to the energy crises of the 1970s.
Yeah.
A company would come to a factory and say, hey, we will install brand new hyper-efficient HVAC systems and LED lighting for free.
Yeah.
You pay us absolutely nothing up front.
But there's a catch.
Right. But for the next 5 years, we get to keep a percentage of the money you save on your monthly utility bill.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do the algorithmic triage companies apply this?
They applied this exact same logic. The tech team installs the physical triage stations on the 3PL's dock entirely for free. There is zero upfront cost to the retail brand and zero cost to the warehouse.
Free hardware?
The tech provider manufactures, ships, and deploys the hardware, the edge computers, and the cameras entirely on their own dime.
Okay, so the tech company assumes 100% of the initial capital risk. How do they ever make a profit?
They make money purely on verified performance. They invoice the retail brand at the end of the month for a 30% cut of the verified market value of the inventory they successfully salvage and route to restock.
Okay, let me make sure I get this. If the triage station scans a pallet of returns and the edge AI determines that every single item is legitimately ruined and must be liquidated, the retail brand pays absolutely nothing for that scan.
Correct. The tech company makes $0.
But if the station finds that 40% of the items are in pristine factory seal condition, which the data shows is typical, the machine routes them to the restock pallet. The brand recovers the full value of that inventory to sell again, and the tech company takes a 30% fee of that specific recovered value.
Exactly. It's a win-win based on actual salvage.
It is exactly like hiring a marine salvage crew or a treasure hunter. We'll dive to the bottom of the ocean to search your sunken ship for free. We'll bring our own scuba gear, our own lights, our own submarines, but we keep 30% of the gold bullion we pull out of the wreckage.
Yeah.
If the chest is empty, you don't owe us a dime for our time.
That analogy perfectly captures the risk profile. Let's look at the incentive alignment from each participant's perspective because it resolves the standoff perfectly.
Okay, let's start with the retail brand.
For the retail brand, they are instantly reclaiming 70% of a profit margin that was previously lost completely to the 5-cent liquidation bin. They pay no upfront CapEx fees, and they turn dead stock into active, sellable inventory.
Love it. And for the tech provider,
Their revenue scales purely based on the efficacy of their technology. The better their edge AI gets at spotting perfect factory seals and unblemished fabrics, the more money they make.
That makes total sense.
And Bond notes that under this shared savings model, the hardware system pays for its own manufacturing and deployment costs in just 72 hours of continuous operation.
Wait, 72 hours to break even on heavy industrial hardware? That is an absurdly fast return on investment.
It's unheard of.
But wait, we still haven't solved for the 3PL warehouse. The brand is happy, the tech guy is happy, but the 3PL is still losing their lucrative 4-minute manual inspection labor. How are they convinced to go along with this?
The 3PL is brought to the table by their client, the retail brand. The brand who holds the ultimate contract and pays the warehouse for their services simply mandates the installation of the triage station.
And the 3PL can't say no.
Well, because the system is free to install, requires no capex from the 3PL, and has a very small physical footprint, the 3PL really has no legitimate logistical grounds to refuse the client's request.
Right. They can't just say, no, we prefer to bill you for slow work.
Exactly. Furthermore, while the 3PL does lose the inefficient manual inspection labor hours, they actually gain something much more valuable: massive throughput.
Because they can clear the docks faster.
Yes, they can clear the crowded loading docks exponentially faster. This allows the 3PL to take on more clients, handle larger volumes, and process more outbound shipments, which is where their real scalable profit margins exist anyway.
So it actually helps their core business.
It eliminates the inbound bottleneck that warehouse floor managers secretly hate dealing with anyway.
It is a beautifully constructed Trojan horse. It sneaks onto the floor because it's free, and it stays on the floor because it makes everyone's life easier.
That's exactly what it is.
But put yourself in the shoes of a skeptical retail COO. You are sitting in a corporate high-rise in Manhattan, hundreds of miles away from your 3PL in Ohio. You might not believe the core premise.
Right, you'd be doubtful.
You might think, my customers are animals. They're definitely wearing these jackets in the rain and returning them stained. There is no way 40% of my returns are pristine. How does the tech provider prove this liquidation leak is actually happening before the COO even signs a contract?
Bond has a highly specific, visceral validation mechanism for this exact skepticism.
Oh,
He calls it the 48-hour trash audit.
the 48-hour trash audit. I love the sound of that. How does it work?
He tells COOs that if they want to prove this leakage is happening, they do not need to hire an expensive consulting firm to run a 6-month study. They just need to put on a high-visibility vest and visit their primary 3PL dock unannounced.
Just walk right in.
Yeah. They walk past the receiving line, straight to the liquidation staging area at the back of the warehouse. They find the third-party liquidator who is about to haul away their goods, and they literally buy back 3 random, unsorted Gaylord pallets of their own brand's returned inventory.
Wait, they buy their own returns?
Yes, they pay the standard liquidator rate, 5 cents on the dollar.
So the COO is literally pulling out a corporate credit card to buy their own trash back from the guy hauling it to the dump.
Exactly. Then they take those 3 Gaylords to a quiet corner of the warehouse, and the COO manually audits the contents themselves. They open the boxes.
And what do they find?
Blonde guarantees that if they execute this audit, they will physically find that more than 25 to 40% of the items in those bins are completely unopened, tags on, in pristine condition.
Wow, just sitting right there in the trash pile.
The moment a retail executive holds their own perfectly good, highly profitable product that was seconds away from being sold for a nickel, the abstract data becomes viscerally real.
I bet it does.
At that exact moment, the automated triage station transitions from a nice-to-have tech novelty to a mathematically mandated operational necessity. The proof is undeniable because they are holding it in their hands.
Oh, look in your own dumpster. It slices right through the corporate jargon.
It really does.
So we have a hardware solution that cuts triage from 4 minutes to 15 seconds. We have a shared savings financial model that removes all capital risk and perfectly aligns the incentives of the brand, the warehouse, and the tech provider. The brand is saving millions in lost margins.
It's all the immediate financial problem, yes.
But I want to elevate the conversation now, because by shifting this triage gateway to the very edge of the warehouse dock, what does this mean for the physical items themselves? What does this mean for the global supply chain at a macro level?
This is the really exciting part.
Because this isn't just about juicing a quarterly spreadsheet, right? This is about fundamentally restructuring the circular economy.
It absolutely is, and this brings us deeply into the insights from the NRF and Happy Returners reports. When we analyze reverse logistics, we are looking at the absolute cornerstone of the circular economy.
How so?
The faster, cheaper, and more accurately we can process a physical return, the more viable options we unlock for that item's second life. Let's begin with how COOs can use this sudden flood of instantaneous triage data to reduce long-term operational waste upstream.
Right, because before this Edge AI station, the COO just got a spreadsheet at the end of the month saying 10,000 units liquidated. They had absolutely no idea why those units were liquidated. Was it a sizing issue?
Yep.
A broken zipper? A ripped box?
This is a black box of financial loss.
Exactly, lagging data.
But with an automated triage station analyzing every single item in 15 seconds, the COO suddenly possesses real-time, highly granular item-level data. They know exactly what is returning and specifically why it failed the visual check.
So how do they use that?
Imagine the Edge AI consistently flags a specific SKU, a particular model of coffee maker, and routes it to the red liquidate bin. The data shows it's failing because the cardboard packaging seal consistently breaks in transit.
Okay, so a specific flaw.
The COO can look at that data dashboard at 10:00 a.m., instantly identify a packaging flaw, and call their manufacturing facility in Vietnam by 10:15 a.m. to say, hey, the adhesive you were using on this box is failing under shipping stress. Change the glue today.
That's incredible. They are using reverse logistics data to instantly fix forward logistics. They stop the bleeding at the source, preventing the next 10,000 coffee makers from suffering the exact same fate.
Rather than waiting 3 months to read a post-mortem liquidation report.
Precisely. And for the items that do physically come back, we have to fundamentally change our corporate terminology. Bond makes a critical distinction that the NRF echoes. Returned goods sitting on a dock are not dead stock.
Right, they are simply slow stock.
Slow stock. I really like the psychological shift there. Dead implies finality, a write-off. Slow implies it still has a destination, it just lost its momentum.
They absolutely have a destination, and the industry data backs this up. According to supply chain insights from Deloitte, heavily cited in the NRF report, retail businesses with highly optimized reverse logistics can recover up to 65% of the original value of returned items in best-case scenarios.
65%.
By utilizing that 15-second Edge AI triage, you are catching those pristine jackets and coffee makers immediately. You route them to the green bin, and they are put right back onto the digital shelf to be sold at full price.
So you are aggressively preventing them from ever crossing the threshold into the liquidation waste stream.
You transform the returns department from a purely administrative cost center into an active recovery engine that directly funds the business.
And keeping those perfectly good items out of bulk liquidation and ultimately out of landfills directly impacts a company's environmental, social, and governance goals, their ESG targets.
It is arguably one of the most quantifiable, verifiable ways to impact ESG targets, specifically Scope 3 emissions.
Remind me, Scope 3, those are the indirect emissions, right?
Right, the indirect emissions in a company's value chain. Every time you rescue a pristine jacket from a liquidation bin and successfully sell it to a new customer, you are entirely negating the need to extract raw cotton, process it, dye it, manufacture a brand new jacket, and ship it across the ocean to fulfill that consumer demand.
So by literally just looking at a cardboard box faster at the loading dock, we are making the entire global supply chain more resilient.
The NRF report emphasizes this exact point. Selling reclaimed or returned inventory reduces a brand's reliance on virgin natural resources.
Which is huge today.
It is. In a world where global supply chains are increasingly fragile and volatile, whether due to shipping canal blockages, raw material shortages, or sudden geopolitical trade tariffs, having a high... Exactly. It's like mining your own waste stream for high-value resources. You can't control the cost of shipping a container from Asia, but you can control how efficiently you rescue the inventory already sitting in Ohio.
And the NRF report provides some fascinating concrete examples of how these circular economy partnerships actually function in the real world, once you have the logistics and data visibility sorted out. They highlight the Home Depot as a prime case study.
Yes, the Home Depot provides an excellent blueprint of what happens when a massive enterprise really masters reverse logistics and waste stream visibility. A standout example is their closed-loop partnership with Glad trash bags.
Glad trash bags. Okay, how does that work?
Think about the sheer volume of plastic stretch wrap a distribution center uses to secure pallets of heavy goods. Historically, that plastic wrap was cut off and thrown into a dumpster, bound for a landfill.
Right, just massive balls of plastic.
But the Home Depot collects that used plastic wrap. Instead of paying to throw it away, they bundle it and sell it to Glad. Glad then melts down that recycled industrial plastic to manufacture their commercial trash bags, which they then sell back to consumers, and even back to the Home Depot.
They are turning an industrial waste byproduct into raw material for an entirely different manufacturing industry. That's brilliant. But how does that connect back to our triage station? The Home Depot isn't using edge AI cameras to sort trash bags, are they?
It connects through the prerequisite of data visibility. You cannot recycle what you cannot accurately identify and sort at scale.
Ah, okay.
The Home Depot didn't just magically decide to give Glad their plastic wrap. They had to achieve granular visibility on their loading docks first. They had to implement systems to train workers to separate the wrap from the cardboard and the broken goods.
Because if your warehouse stock is just a chaotic, blind pile of unsorted returns taking 4 minutes an item to process, you cannot efficiently route a byproduct to a recycling partner like Glad.
Exactly. Without something acting like an algorithmic triage station telling you instantaneously this is recyclable, this is trash, this is restockable, complex circular partnerships are logistically impossible to execute.
Visibility enables routing. That's a great takeaway. Another powerful example the NRF mentions is the Home Depot's partnership with a nonprofit called Good 360.
Yes, and this addresses the social aspect of ESG. When the Home Depot identifies surplus inventory or items that have minor cosmetic damage making them unsellable at retail but perfectly functional like a slightly scratched drill or a dented toolbox, they redirect that inventory to Good 360.
Okay, and what does Good 360 do with it?
Good 360 manages a massive network of local community partners, builders, and disaster relief organizations. Instead of liquidating those tools to a discounter for pennies, Home Depot donates them to communities in need.
That's amazing.
It keeps usable, heavy-duty goods out of landfills, provides a tax write-off for the corporation, and builds immense community goodwill.
But again, to execute a donation pipeline at an enterprise scale, you need speed. If a scratched drill sits in a Gaylord for 3 months waiting for a manual inspection, the value is just trapped.
Yes, the 15-second automated triage station is the gateway.
The faster you can categorize an item at the loading dock, the faster you can trigger the correct circular pathway, whether that is a green light for restock, a yellow light for Good 360 donation, or a blue light for raw material recycling.
It all fundamentally relies on the speed of categorization. If you can see it quickly, you can save it.
Yeah.
If you can't, it just defaults to the trash.
This has been such an incredible journey to unpack today. I mean, we started by looking at this mind-boggling $890 billion tidal wave of online returns, driven by our modern expectation that the bedroom is a fitting room and refunds should be frictionless.
We examine the agonizing reality of the kinetic friction on the dock, the manual inspection nightmare, where it takes 4 minutes and costs $4 just to unzip a jacket and smell it for smoke.
We uncovered the deeply misaligned 3PL incentive structure, where warehouses are literally financially rewarded for slow labor and punished for efficiency, forcing them to just throw away 40% pristine inventory for pennies on the dollar just to clear floor space.
And then we explored the physical intervention, the algorithmic triage station. Not a cloud-based software dashboard, but a matte black steel frame bolted to the concrete floor.
Edge AI running locally on an NVIDIA Jetson, completely immune to the Faraday cage of bad warehouse Wi-Fi, using dual strobe LEDs to make a 15-millisecond binary decision, red or green.
Dropping the unit cost of inspection from $4 down to 12 cents and taking the decision entirely out of the hands of the floor worker.
And making that deployment actually happen through the brilliance of the shared savings financial model. No corporate CapEx arguments, no upfront fees, just a tech team acting like treasure hunters, taking a 30% cut of the margins they personally rescue from the liquidation bin.
Which ultimately provides the granular data and the high-speed sorting necessary to fuel the circular economy. It helps brands meet their complex ESG goals, reduces reliance on virgin resources, and turns what used to be written off as dead stock into active, valuable resources for both the brand and their recycling partners.
It is a perfect example of how hyper-specific localized technology can restore efficiency and sanity to a massive global system that had become fundamentally irrational. And it really leaves me with this final thought for you to mull over.
Yeah.
Next time you are trying on shoes or you take up a cardboard box, print out that return label and drop off a package at the counter, I want you to think about that incredible unseen machinery waiting at the other end of the journey.
It's quite a picture.
Think about the structural steel, the industrial cameras, the strobing LEDs, the edge algorithms, all waiting in the dusty dark of a massive warehouse just to judge that single item's fate in 15 milliseconds.
It's all waiting right there.
But zooming out, it also makes you wonder, If up to 40% of what we casually throw into the corporate liquidation pile is actually absolutely perfect, just waiting to be salvaged, what other massive, glaring inefficiencies in our society are we just accepting every single day?
That's a great question.
What other resources are we burning simply because we haven't figured out how to look at them fast enough? Keep questioning the invisible systems around you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.